Morning. Happy Tuesday. If you do have blocks, set them aside and have them nearby, but if you don't, you don't, and that's fine. We're going to start on our backs, so you can go ahead and lay on down to begin. And when you lay down, just go to a place that feels comfortable for you. So if you like just to lay splat on your back, you lay splat on your back. If that causes you any kind of lower back tension, you can come into active or constructive rest, which is when you bring your inner knees to touch, you walk your feet out wide, and you let the inner knees rest on one another so that there's no engagement of the legs. And if neither of those options work, you probably know that already, and you'll just sort of support yourself in a way that feels appropriate for you today. But regardless of where you go to a place where you're not engaging, where you're not working to put yourself in a position. And then from here, move your left shoulder and your right shoulder away from each other so that you feel wider and broader on the mat. And as you close the eyes and soften the face, imagine that the breath could move directly down into the base of the lungs so that you're filling up kind of like it's the thoracic region of the spine, but it's the lower portion underneath the shoulder blades, like you could breathe and fill space into your mid-back. It'll obviously make your belly and your chest rise, but imagine that the breath could move downward towards the floor, the earth. And as you breathe, just start breathing deeper. Don't go towards any kind of technique or true work yet. Just breathe deep, breathe wide, and breathe long. And as we lay here breathing, regardless of the position of your body, start to notice sort of really obvious clues as to where you are in space, where you are in your house, the building that you're in, perhaps even your geographical location on this planet. We can get quite sort of imaginary and esoteric and ethereal with our yoga practice to see if you can get really specific and almost obvious, tactile. Notice what parts of the body are resting on the floor. Any sounds, sensations coming in from your environment. And then start to turn that focus inward and notice any sensations, right? So this is sensory information coming from inside of you. Noticing perhaps temperature of the air moving in and out of the nostrils. And it can be really anything. You can notice a grumbling stomach. You can notice pressure on the back of the pelvis. You can notice the weight of the legs leaning in towards each other. Maybe the heels are touching the floor. Maybe the soles of the feet are touching the floor. That'll be really specific and really personal. And take 3 more deep, wide, and long breaths. And if you like the pranayama of counting inhale and exhale to keep them even, you can do so here. And after your last breath, if your knees were bent and knocked in towards each other, start to lengthen the legs long. If your legs are already long, just start to lengthen them even more. Maybe flex into the heels like you're standing. If you propped them up, remove the props. And then stretch the arms up and overhead. Without fail, this always makes me yawn. And as you stretch, reach the fingertips back behind you, reach the heels away from you, and imagine that you were standing and you were trying to reach up towards the ceiling. And then really slowly just soften into that shape. So maybe the elbows sort of bend a bit, the shoulders splay out, the heels drop in, toes away. And then from here, engage again, reach the fingertips away from you, flex into the heels. Super simple. I think pretty much every single one of you have done this with me in class, but inhale and fill up like you're stretching away from the belly button. You're trying to engage everything, flex the quads, press the heels away from you, draw the toes towards the shins, and then soften. And once more, reach the fingertips away from you, flex, pull, tighten, squeeze, engage. As if you could sort of, this is the on switch and now the off switch, soften. Very slowly draw the knees into the chest, one at a time. Give them a squeeze. As you give them a squeeze, you can sort of rock them side to side or roll them in circles, whatever feels nice to you. And then roll them into center, flex into the heels. And in the same way that we're pressing the heels away from us, we're going to press the heels away from us now, but just until we start to feel like the low back really starts to rise. So if you're to see yourself from the side, which I realize not everyone has a screen to show themselves right now, but imagine that your knees could be at a 90 degree, and then flex into the feet. Start to pull the feet together and bring the inner arches together, and start to draw the knees out wide. This is without your hands. Draw the knees out wide. Pull the heels in towards you, and imagine the knees could come in towards the armpits. Good. And then start to draw the heels away from you. Keep that same shape. Draw the knees away from you. And then bring the knees back together. Now draw the heels away, the knees stay in. Imagine you could draw the toes towards each other, so now we're internally rotating. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Keep the rotation of the thigh bones. Keep the feet where they are. And then slowly release. Draw the inner arches to touch again. Draw the knees out wide. It's kind of like you're coming into Baddha Konasana or butterfly. Keep flexing into the feet so the toes are really active. Start to draw the sort of inner arches towards the groin. Now start to draw the knees to the chest. The back of the pelvis can lift. Draw away. Come back through center. Once more, the opposite direction with that rotation of the thigh bones. Draw the heels away. Imagine you could pigeon toe the feet. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Good. Draw it away. And then really slowly lengthen the legs. Give them a rest. Kick your blocks out of the way if they're in the way. Reach the arms up and overhead. Stretch, reach. Heels and fingertips in opposite directions. And then soften. Twice more at your pace. Stretch, reach, lengthen, engage everything right on, and then off switch, soften. And then once more, stretch, reach, lengthen, engage, stretch away from each other, and then soften. One knee and then the next into the chest. Give them a squeeze for just a moment, and then bring the knees back into 90 degrees. And again, flex into the feet. We're going to draw the inner arches together. So just the same thing as before. Knees separate out. Feet, keep the feet flexed. Draw the knees in towards the armpits, 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 armpits. Good. And then away from each other. and come back into neutral. And then inner knees to touch, feet walk out wide. So this is the same position as active rest, but now it's like active work, right? Draw the knees into yourselves and away. Inner arches to touch, feet drop out, or sorry, knees come out wide. Draw the heels, inner arches towards the groin. Right, if you pause and sort of think about this position, if you were to reach your arms forward for crow, maybe it's Malasana squat. Good. And then come back through center. Last time with the internal rotation, right? Active rest, now it's active work. And then slowly draw yourself back through center. Step the feet down to hips width distance apart. And now lift yourself up into a bridge. And when you lift yourself up to a bridge, don't think about sort of squeezing the glutes and pressing the hips up towards the sky. Think about inner knees drawing forward away from the crown of the head. And then reach the arms up and overhead, reach the fingertips back in space, and imagine that you could get longer by way of this bridge. So not so much a back bend, but a lengthening of the spine. Take an inhale here. And exhale, slowly roll down. Draw the knees into the chest, give them a squeeze. And then from here, you're gonna rock and roll yourself up to a seat. You can take one rock, you can do several rocks, it's up to you. I'm gonna face you so it's sort of easier with my cueing. You can stay on your mat as you are. When you come up to your seat, you can tent your fingertips up behind you, or you can land flat on the palms, whatever feels more appropriate for you. I like to flip my fingers towards the back of the room so it causes a broadening of the chest, but if this is better for you, it's better for you. Now walk the feet out a touch, flex into the feet. I'll walk mine a little bit narrower because that's my hips width distance. And we're just sort of mimicking the same movement that we were just in, right? Now we walk our feet wider, as if we were in not so much a wide-legged forward fold, but just wider than hips width. Flex into the feet again. Now, keeping the torso and the pelvis exactly as it is, drop the knees over. So this is different than we've done before when we sort of like go all the way over to one side, right? It's just the knees, just the rotation of the leg bones. Good. And then come back through center. And then drop them over to the other side and see if you can be really controlled. Right? Imagine that your pelvis and your torso are just cemented in place. Good. Come back through center. Over to the other side. Come back through center. And over to the other side. Good. Back through center. Now when you drop your knees over to your, it looks like you're all going to your left. When you drop your knees over to your left, is that your left? It's your right. Yeah, it's your left. So when you come over to your left, roll and now come all the way up onto that hip. If you can, right? Yeah, perfect. That's great, Dave. And then come back through center. And so now we're increasing the movement and we're involving the spine, the pelvis. And it's not so much active now because we're using our body weight to sort of feel a little bit of a stretch in that hip. Good. Yeah, and if the arms start to move away from the back behind you, they can do so. But I like to bring my hand either to the middle of my legs or around. And as you come around, maybe you start to twist around the axis of the spine, you start to look behind you. Start to think of your body more as a sort of spherical or cylindrical thing, and not just a front, a back, a side to side. But for the front to back, there's a middle. From the left to the right, there's also a middle, and top to bottom, there's a middle. Good. Let's go to each side once more. I'm being pretty purposeful in the fact that I'm not giving you tons of alignment cues. This is more about just sort of how your body moves today, right now. And then come through center, cross the ankles, come up and over into tabletop. When you come into tabletop, close the eyes, start to move through cat and cow in a way that feels nice to you today. And maybe it's not even moving, but it's breathing in cat or it's breathing in cow. But think again of breathing into the backs of the lungs like we were on our backs in the beginning. If you want to flip your wrists, you can flip your wrists. If you want to play with rotation of the leg bones here, you can come into that sort of internal rotation and do a little cat and cow. Right, drawing the knees together, the feet out wide. You can do the opposite, right? A lot of the times we play with our arms here. We flip our wrists. We move our shoulders in certain ways. But see if you can start to play with the legs. Maybe the knees come wide and the feet come together. And about 4 more breaths. So be real purposeful with the way you're moving your spine. Imagine again that you're a sphere, right? You could move around the entirety of your sphere. And then slowly bring yourself back to center. If you flipped your wrists, unflip your wrists. Walk the hands directly underneath the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips. So we're in a true table, right? It's not long. And you're going to tuck your toes. And see if you can really get sort of towards the balls of the feet. Press into the hands and just pick the knees up and rock yourself into a little low squat. Yeah, so it's as if you're pressing your butt towards your heels. Maybe you draw your knees in closer to each other. And then notice how close the thighs are to the torso, and see if you can keep that as you start to lift the hips up but keep the bend of the knees. And it's a really short downward facing dog. And then it's really short downward facing dog. There's a very deep hip crease. So bend the knees, look forward just a touch, send the knees forward, send the hips back. And then start to drop the seat towards the heels again. So come to that really tiny little squat. Good. And then lift the hips up again. And then drop it down. Good. And once more, lift the hips up. And now walk the hands back towards the feet. Drop the hips down. The heels can lift. Hands on fingertips. Start to widen the knees out. And as you widen the knees out, I like to think of sort of playing with dropping my heels. All right, so you drop your heels just a bit, and then come high onto the balls of the feet. And just notice what happens to the knees, the orientation of the pelvis. Again, this is not an alignment-specific thing. I'm not trying to get you to a specific shape. I'm just trying to get you to understand where you are in space right now. So come high onto the balls of the feet. Drop the hips. Maybe walk the fingertips back towards you. Pull the navel in, and then drop the heels down as low as they'll go. Notice what happens to the knees. Good. Once more. High onto the balls of the feet. There you go. And then drop the heels down. Good. Walk the hands a little bit farther forward. Step the feet down. Let the hips lift up. Forward fold. Walk the hands onto the shins. Come up half the way. Exhale, fold. As you inhale, really slowly roll up, and imagine the inhale is moving into the back of the lungs to lift you up like a balloon. And as you exhale, come to stand and pause. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, bend into the knees, drape and fold all the way down. Keep a bend of the knees. As you inhale, it's the back of the lungs that inflates and draws you up, rolls you up, vertebra by vertebra. A long, deep inhale. Exhale to stand. Inhale to sweep the arms up. And exhale to fold. Once more like that. Inhale, rounded spine, roll up with bent knees. Like the lungs are a balloon that's filling and it draws you up. Exhale, you stand. Inhale, sweep the arms. And exhale, fold all the way down. Walk yourself forward to a plank pose. And when you walk yourself into a plank pose, imagine that you could stretch your palms wider so you've got a good surface area underneath the hands. Imagine the crown of the head and the heels are moving in opposite directions. Feel from the left nipple to the right heel stretch away from each other. And then right nipple to left heel stretch away from each other. Good. Bend the knees, lift the hips up and back. Come into your regulation length, downward facing dog. Feel around in your shape today. If you want to rock the hips side to side, pick up the hands, right paw the hands like a cat. And as you feel around in your shape today, remember you are a sphere. So take up space as you explore. And then come to settle in your downward facing dog as it is today. Now imagine left hand to right hip stretches away from each other. And right hand from left hip stretches away from each other. So we've got all these diagonals, these maps to sort of give us more dimension in our shape, to give us more space in our sphere. Slowly come forward again to plank pose. Heels back, heart forward. Good. Drop the knees down. Send the hips back, child's pose or embryo, whatever feels best for you. If neither of those feel good for you, you can come to sit on your shins. And take a moment again to breathe into the backs of the lungs. As you breathe into the backs of the lungs, it's like the whole torso fills up with air. Not just the actual physical lungs, but the abdomen, the torso, the pelvis, the side ribs. Slowly come up and forward, tabletop. Walk the hands a little bit farther forward. If you want to come into plank pose to measure your dog before you go back, you can do so, or just come back to downward facing dog. Excuse me. When you come into your down dog, again, see if you can find surface area underneath the hands, the bend of the knees, a lift of the hips. Left hand to right hip stretches away from each other. Very slowly, imagine you could cement your whole body in space. Come high into the right hand fingertips, transfer weight into the left hand, and then bring the right hand to your sacrum, palm is up towards the sky. So already I'm lilting to my left side, so I'm going to bend the knees. I'm going to lift the hips, I'm going to look forward. Good. From here, you're going to just shift forward like you're coming towards plank pose, and maybe it's just a lifting of the chest to look forward. Some of you might shift forward to a one-armed plank, and then come up and back, downward facing dog. Let the right hand come down. Transfer weight equally through the hands. From the right hands to the left hip, stretch away from each other. Get light on the left hand fingertips. And then bring the left hand to the sacrum. And so right now I can feel my right hand and my left foot are bearing a lot of the weight. So put a little more weight into your right foot. Bend the knees, look forward. And maybe it's just a lifting of the chest. And maybe it's a lengthening of the legs. And maybe it's right shoulder away from left heel. Go ahead, bend the knees, come up and back, downward facing dog. From here, look forward, step your right foot forward. When you step your right foot forward, bring the hands out to 10 and 2. This is a great place for blocks if you feel like the floor is a really far away place for you. You don't know where your blocks are, do you, Mom? It's okay. You can do it without it. When you bring your hands out to 10 and 2, bring your awareness into your right shoulder, your right armpit. Maybe the right knee is there with it. From your right knee or your right shoulder, lengthen away from your left heel. So imagine you could get longer across that diagonal of your body. Nice, Dave. So it's right shoulder, left heel. Stretch away from each other. Good. Slowly then to the back knee down. Untuck the toes and press really firmly into the back, the top of the back foot. Keep the left hand where it is. You guys will all recognize this. We're going to sweep the right arm back in space. As you sweep the right arm back in space, you're coming off the linear sort of portion of your mat, coming off the legs. Sweep the right arm up and over. Look down towards the left-hand corner of your mat. Bring the right hand off the left-hand corner of your mat. Walk your left hand up and over. And then from here, imagine you could internally rotate your thighs. So internally rotate the thighs. That's going to pick your hips and pelvis up just a touch. Good. And as you internally rotate the thighs, then imagine the right knee could go off towards the right-hand corner of the mat. Nice, Pat. Good. So we're just playing a little bit with sort of sensation and placement of the pelvis. Find your back toes. Lengthen your left leg, back leg. Good. Now walk your hands down the back of your mat, the left-hand side of your mat. And then place your feet in your wide-legged forward fold. Kick the heels out just a touch. Walk the hands underneath the shoulders. And from here, imagine there's a slight bend of the knees, a lift of the hips, and then walk the hands farther forward so that you're in like a wide-legged downward facing dog on fingertips. So bend the knees, lift the hips, and imagine it's that same sensation in down dog. Left hand to right hip stretches away from each other. Right hand, left hip stretches away from each other. Really slowly walk the left hand and the right hand up and over towards the left foot. Bring the left hand to the left foot, right hand to the left foot. Bend into the left knee ever so slightly. Bring your right hand onto the top of the ankle. And then very slowly, it's like you're pulling on the left foot to swing the torso out wide. Maybe the left arm comes up. And then very slowly drop it down, walk the hands down the center of the mat, start to walk the hands towards the top, turn the right foot towards the top of the mat, unstick the back heel, and step forward, forward fold. Inhale up half the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise, come all the way up. And exhale, hands into heart center. So think about breathing into the backs of the lungs as you inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, fold all the way down. Inhale up half the way. And exhale, step back to downward facing dog. If you'd like to visit anything, you can visit something. Don't overdo. It's hot, we're in the middle of summer. It's a very outward, fiery season. Imagine if you get more surface area with the palms. Recall the sensation of left hand stretching to right hip, right hand stretching to left hip. Find all the diagonals, the way you can cross-reference your whole body. Look forward, step the left foot forward. When you step the left foot forward, hands come out to 10 and 2. If you want blocks, you can use blocks. Once you have your hands out to 10 and 2, from your left shoulder to your right heel, imagine you could get longer, stretch away from each other. Good. Widen out your stance a little bit, Pat. You look a little bit like you're on a tightrope. Yeah, there you go. So your legs are as wide as your pelvis. Good. So it may be the left armpit and left knee are friends. So maybe it's left knee to right heel, stretch away. Good. And then very slowly drop the right knee down, untuck the toes, press down into the top of the foot. So you still have a lot of support there. Keep the right hand where it is. Very slowly sweep the left arm back in space. And as you sweep the left arm back in space, imagine you're peeling off sort of that linear quality of your yoga mat, sweeping up, you're spherical, you're reaching the left arm alongside the ear, and then very slowly look down. Bring your left hand up into the right hand corner of the mat. Walk your right hand out wider, tent onto fingertips. Good. From here, internally rotate the thigh bones. It'll sort of kick your butt out to the left a bit. It'll pick the pelvis up. Good. And then maybe draw the left knee out and away towards the left-hand corner of the mat. It'll take you out of sort of, it's direct opposite cues. But again, it's just so you can locate yourself in space and find sensation. Good. And if it feels okay for you, tuck under the back toes and lengthen the back leg. And if that's crazy for that hip, Dave, just keep the back knee down. Good. From here, walk the hands down the right hand of your mat, right hand side, and find your wide-legged forward fold. You can kick the heels out just a touch, bend into the knees, walk the hands underneath the shoulders, and then walk the hands out in front of you so that you're coming into a wide-legged, almost like a wide-legged downward-facing dog, but with not really any weight on the hands. But imagine left hand to right hip stretches away. Right hand, left hip stretches away. Good. And then imagine that you could lift the butt bones up higher towards the ceiling even more. Right? Think down dog in the pelvis. And then think down dog in the heart as you look up and forward towards your hands. There it is. Good. Walk the hands even further over towards your right foot. Bring your left hand on top of your right ankle. I know I didn't say this on the other side, so I apologize, but if that feels like really far away from you, you can walk the feet in closer. So left hand onto right ankle, pull on the arm so that you swing the torso kind of up and over that foot. So we're not trying to spin around the axis of our spine sort of in the center of the mat, but we're swinging open. Maybe the right arm reaches up towards the sky. And maybe one day you can look behind you, right? If there was a screen there, you would be able to wave to it. As you open up the arm, imagine you could open up the collarbones even more. Very slowly release. Come back down through center. Walk the hands to the top of the mat. Bend into the left knee. Step forward, forward fold. Inhale half the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise, sweep all the way up. And exhale, hands into heart center. Inhale, sweep out, wide and high, lift. Exhale, fold all the way down. Inhale, up half the way. And exhale, make your way to downward facing dog in a way that feels appropriate to you. And if you want to move through anything else, you can move through other things. Nice. Okay. From downward facing dog, find left hand to right hip stretch away from each other, bend the knees. Get light on the right hand, bring the right hand to the sacrum again. Look forward with the gaze so you know where you're going and step your right foot exactly where your right hand was. Ooh, nice. Nicely done. Okay, from here, bring your right hand off your sacrum and reach it up towards the sky. Open up into a twist. And then bring the right hand back to the sacrum and look down. And then from the sacrum to the sky, the right hand goes. And then bring it back down. So I'd like you to get a little bit looser with the way that the pelvis and the spine are moving. So as you reach the right arm up towards the sky, feel an external rotation of the right thigh bone, internal rotation of the left. And then as you look down, internally rotate right thigh bone, externally rotate the left. It's very slight, but let it sort of unfold as you reach right arm up. Let the right knee fall away, and then as you look down, the right knee comes back in through center. Good. Nice, mom, that's it. And then once more, open up. And as you close down, bring the right hand to frame the foot. Bring the left knee down on the floor. Press down into the top of the left foot. Replace the left hand underneath your shoulder if it was any farther away from you, and press down pretty firmly into the left foot as you swing the right leg back into space. and bring the right hand to the hip. And so we're not swinging the left foot out as a kickstand right now. And imagine that you could press down into the top of the left foot even more, even more, even more, as you draw the right toes into your periphery. So resist the urge to look back at your toes, but rather keep looking off to the side. Bring your right foot into the periphery, 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 periphery. Okay, keep flexing into the foot, then bend into the knee, step the right foot back in front at the top of the mat. Good. Yeah, it's a lot of hip work to get there. There we go. Tuck under the back toes, step forward, forward fold. Inhale up half the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise. Legs are springs. Use the energy. Come all the way up. Exhale, hands into heart center. Still breathing into the backs of the lungs. Inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, fold. Inhale up half the way. And exhale your way back to downward facing dog. And your way could be through tabletop, child's pose. It could be a pause to get water. It could be an upward facing dog, as you wish. Bend the knees, lift the hips. Find the right hand to the left hip, stretching away from each other. Get really light on left hand fingertips and bring the left hand to the sacrum. Bend the knees and look forward. And as you shift forward, lift the chest up and step the left foot right where the left foot hand was. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, if you've got to take the hand down and sort of nudge the foot in and then bring the hand back, you got to do it, right? Good. Then once you land, open up, reach the left arm up towards the sky. And then bring the left hand back to the sacrum as you look down. So it's like you're opening and closing a door, right? Open, externally rotate the left thigh bone, internally rotate the right. So you start to sort of come off the linear quality, right? And then left hand comes back, internally rotate right thigh bone. Okay. A couple more times. If you want to sort of mirror this with your breath, maybe it's inhale, you open up, and exhale, you close. Honestly, I don't really care, just as long as you're breathing. And as long as you're thinking about the rotation of the leg bones and you as a sphere. Good. Nice pat, nice Dave. Good, once more, open up and imagine that the left leg could externally rotate, right leg internally rotate, and then look down. Bring the left hand down, bring the back knee down, untuck the toes and press really firmly into the top of the back foot, almost like you could pick up the knee, right? It's enough to support you. Walk the right hand underneath the shoulder. Press down into the top of the right foot as you swing your left leg back in space, flex into the foot. Really press down into the top of the right foot as you flex into the left foot and bring it off to the left. Resist the urge to look back at your foot, Pat. I know, it's super hard. Good, flex, flex, flex. Draw the left foot out to the left, 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 and then bend it to the knee, step it back where it was. It should feel pretty angsty in the top of your left hip when you do that. That's how you know you're doing it right. Tuck under the back toes, step forward, forward fold. Inhale up half the way. Exhale, fold. Inhale, root to rise, come all the way up, sweep up. And exhale, hands into heart center. Good. Inhale, sweep the arms up. This time, pause here with hands up. Come high into the balls of the feet. When you come high, oops, that's my ceiling. When you come high into the balls of the feet, I'm gonna make fists just so I'm not touching my ceiling. When you come high into the balls of the feet, recall that sensation of coming high into the balls of the feet, that low squat, and then dropping your heels, but they don't quite land. You do the same thing here. Come high into the balls of the feet, and then drop your heels so they don't quite land. Good. Come high into the balls of the feet. This time, as you drop your heels, you're gonna drop your seat and come all the way down. Do, 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 do. Yeah, good. Now bring the hands through heart center, bring them down onto the floor. Yeah, widen the knees up to do so. And then come high into the balls of the feet. Tent onto fingertips, broaden the collarbones. And then drop the heels. Let the knees drop. And then come high into the balls of the feet. Good, drop the heels. Once more, come high into the balls of the feet. Right, notice how much tighter a little ball you're making here. Now from here, you can keep your knees where they are. Walk your hands out farther. I'm going to back up because the wall's right there. Walk your hands out a little bit farther. Broaden the collarbones. Tip forward. Bend into the elbows. And just keep yourself here as you tip higher into the balls of the feet. Maybe come onto the tippy toes. So this is a prep for crow, but all the work is in the hip rotation, in the bending of the elbows, the broadening of the collarbones. You don't have to catch any air to feel all the work involved. Maybe you give it a try. Maybe you just lift one toe and then the next. Maybe you come higher off the balls of the feet. Draw the gaze forward instead of straight down, right? Like, you know, it's pretty tough to keep the gaze up when you're coming into this. The tendency is just to look straight down because it does keep our spine in a sort of longer line. But when you look down and you tip forward, you're just going to keep rounding forward like a little beetle. So look out. Good. And then slowly step back, downward facing dog. Get there how you'd like to get there. Good. From downward facing dog, shift forward into plank pose. From plank pose, feel left shoulder to right heel stretch away, right shoulder, left heel stretch away, and then imagine that you could draw the lungs through the gateway of the arms, come into upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. Heels back, heart forward. Bend into the knees, let them land. Sink back, embryo pose. So the knees stay close together. Maybe the hands come to cup the heels. Up to you. And as you come tightly into this little ball, breathe into the backs of the lungs again. And take a moment here to again locate yourself, right, externally and internally, right, in our environment, in our internal sensations. Good, 2 more breaths here. On your next inhale, slowly reach the arms up. You're going to grow out of your seed. And sit on your heels, reach the arms up. Good. As you exhale, stretch the hips and hands in opposite directions. Reach forward towards the top of the mat. Inhale, you're going to round up, fill up the back of the lungs. At the top of your inhale, you're going to come into a back bend of your choice. So it's either cow or upward facing dog. And as you exhale, you're going to come up and back into downward facing dog. So like we've done in the last couple of weeks, we're going to move through salutations. Typically, it's inhale this, exhale that. But because of the season, the temperature, the nature of summer, I'd like you to move really slowly here. I'll give cues for specific movements, but I'd like you to really let this be at your own pace. So your next inhale, step the right foot forward, walk the hands out wide. You have the option to drop the back knee down, especially if you're feeling pretty toasted. If you don't feel toasted, you can keep the back knee up. You're going to sweep the right arm back, out, wide, off and away of yourself. Good. And then you'll step forward, forward fold. Inhale will reach you up. And exhale, you're just going to center yourself and stay standing. Inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, fold. Step the left foot back. Step the right foot back. Hands out wide. Back knee down or a knot. Sweep the left arm out wide, out, and around from yourself. Other arm pat. There you go, good. And then step back, downward facing dog. Your next inhale, come into your back bend of choice, upward facing dog or table into cow. Land the knees down, sink back, embryo pose. Your next inhale, sweep the arms up, reach up. Exhale, hips and hands opposite directions. Inhale, round up and land in the back bend of your choice. And exhale, find downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward. Walk your hands out wide. The left arm sweeps out, around, spherical U. Take as long as you'd like to take there. And then step yourself forward, forward fold. As you inhale, you come all the way up. And exhale, pause, center yourself in standing. Inhale, sweep out, wide and high. And exhale, fold all the way down. Step the left foot back, hands come out wide. Back knee down or not. Right arm sweeps out, around, as long as you'd like to take with that movement. You'll step back to downward facing dog when it's appropriate. An inhale will bring you into your back bend of choice. And the exhale will shift you back into your embryo. The inhale will reach the hands up, come to sit on the heels. Exhale, hips and hands opposite directions. Inhale, round yourself into the back bend of your choice. Exhale into downward facing dog. The right leg steps forward, hands come out wide. As you wish, the right arm reaches out, around, spherical U. You'll step forward to forward fold as you wish. Your inhale will bring you up. Your exhale will center you to stand. Your next inhale will sweep the arms. Your next exhale, all the way down. Step the right foot back. Sweeping spherical lunge as you wish. Stepping back to down dog. Upward facing dog or cow. And exhale, embryo. Inhale, reach up, grow out of your seat. Exhale, stretch hips and hands opposite directions. Inhale, round up into the back bend of your choice. Exhale into downward facing dog. Inhale, left foot steps forward, hands come out wide. It's the left arm that reaches out, around, and down. Step forward to forward fold when you're ready. Once you're there, the inhale reaches you all the way up. And the exhale centers you here. Next inhale reaches all the way up. And exhale all the way down. Left foot steps back, hands come out wide. It's the right arm that reaches back, out, around, and down. Step back, downward facing dog. Inhale to the back bend of your choice. And exhale to land in embryo, child's pose, or sitting on your shins. And when you land here, we'll take a full stop in a place where you're doing minimal engagement to locate yourself internally and externally. Breathe deep into the backs of the lungs. Spherical you. From here, come up into downward facing dog in a way that feels appropriate for you. Bend the knees, lift the hips, bring the right hand to the sacrum, look forward, and step your right foot up where the right hand was. Bring your right hand onto the inside edge of the right foot. If this feels really tight for you, step the left foot out wide. If it still feels tight with stepping the left foot out wide, bring your right hand to a block. We're going to land our back heel down and diagonal the left toes up and off towards the left-hand corner of your room. And for a moment, play with rotation of the leg bones here. So internally rotate the right thigh bone and let the pelvis lift like you're sort of sassing your ass off to the right. And then start to externally rotate it and draw the left hip off to the left-hand corner of your room. And you can go sort of in and out of that, right? Let your butt swing out to the right and then swing it back into center. Good. You can do it once more. Let the butt swing off to the right and then bring it back into center. Right hand on the block or the floor. Start to lift the heart up. So if you're like looking straight down, letting the spine round, imagine you could grow from pubic bone to sternum longer. Maybe the left hand just comes to the sacrum for now, or let yourself open up, left arm high towards the sky. And again, imagine now that you could internally rotate the left thigh bone a little bit more, externally rotate the right thigh bone. And maybe you draw pubic bone to sternum longer, and imagine you could back bend off the structure of your legs. Good. Really slowly reach the left arm up and overhead alongside the ears. And then look down. Bring the left hand down, move the block out from underneath the right hand, walk the hands down the left hand corner of your mat, step your feet into a wide-legged forward fold, walk the feet over to the left foot, walk the hands over to the left foot rather, bring the right hand onto the left ankle, pull on the ankle with the arm, let the chest swing over the foot, reach the left arm high towards the sky. The right leg lengthens, perhaps comes towards straight. And then look down, unravel, look forward towards the top of the mat, and then step yourself back, downward facing dog. Come forward into an upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. And then bend the knees, come up and back, downward facing dog. Right hands to left hip stretch away from each other as you bring the left hand onto the sacrum. Lift the gaze, look forward, forward, forward. Step the left foot forward. Good. Bring the left hand onto the inside edge of the left foot. Step the right foot out wide. Give yourself more space, more broadness in the pelvis. Maybe a block underneath the left hand. And then play. Oh, here, land the back heel down first. Toes diagonal off towards the right hand corner of the room. And then just play with internally rotating the left thigh bone. You pick the tail up. You sass the butt off to the left. The chest can come off to the right. And then externally rotate the left thigh bone. And then internal. And external. Yeah, it's almost like you're wagging your tail. And one more time. Good. And then come into center and externally rotate the left thigh bone. Internally rotate the right. Maybe the right hand just comes onto the sacrum. As you spiral the chest open, maybe the right arm reaches up towards the sky. Feel for the pubic bone to the sternum getting longer. As if you could grow and back bend out of this place. Internally rotate the right thigh bone even more, but don't lose contact with the heel. Slowly bring the right arm alongside the ear. And then very slowly look down. Move any blocks aside. Walk the hands down the right hand edge of your mat. Toe heel yourself into a wide-legged forward fold. And then walk the hands over to the right foot. Left hand to right foot. Pull on the ankle to draw the torso up and over the foot. Reach the right arm high towards the sky. Left leg comes towards straight. Slowly unravel. Walk the hands forward. Step yourself back. Downward facing dog. From here, shift forward, upward facing dog on the balls of the feet. And then bend the knees, let them drop, sink back, child's or embryo. When you land again, breathe deep, breathe wide, breathe long. Okay, from here, come up into downward facing dog in a way that feels appropriate to you. Look forward towards the top of the mat. Hop, step, walk, crawl to the top of your mat. Good. Come into your forward fold at the top. Let the head hang. Slight bend of the knees. Imagine that tailbone to crown of the head could get longer and more slack. Okay. So if you have blocks, you'll find blocks. If you don't have blocks, maybe you use a chair, mom. But you're gonna bring yourself up into a half the way with hands out to 10 and 2, but they're out in front of you. Yeah, perfect. So the hands are out wide, beyond, it's not wrists underneath shoulders, but it's sort of like down dog length of hips and hands. Good. Bend the knees and then lift the gaze up even more. Good. Put a little more weight in your legs, mom. Sink the hips back, yeah. Maybe the stance is too long if that feels like a little rough. Okay, slowly step into the left foot, lengthen step into the right foot, lengthen the left foot up and back. This is the problem with not drinking enough coffee. Okay, so with support underneath your hands, I want you to feel for a bend of the right knee, that's your standing leg. Flex into the left heel, and then slowly turn the left toes out to the left and let the left hip lift up and over the right. And the left hand can come onto the hip as you come into a half moon, but super slow and supported. So maybe the left hand comes to the hip, maybe it doesn't. But think about lifting the left hip up and over the right hip so that there's a direct line from the center of the right foot, through the center of the knee, through the center of the right hip into the left. Good. And then maybe the left shoulder stacks over the right. And maybe you can turn the gaze. Maybe you can still bend into the standing leg. Look down. It's that same thing as closing and opening the door. Look down, down, down. Close the door. Step the left foot down and forward fold. If forward folding doesn't feel nice for you after that, you can come to stand. Let yourself undo in a way that feels appropriate to you. Good. And then start to set yourself up for the second side. The hands again are out wide at 10 and 2, beyond shoulders over wrists. The knees are bent and the gaze is lifted. Step into the left foot to lengthen the right leg back in space. As you flex into the right foot, it's the flying leg. Start to lift the gaze even more. Maybe come onto fingertips on the blocks. And this is a great place to play. Right hands on the blocks, internally and externally rotating the right thigh bone. As you externally rotate the right thigh bone, imagine the right hip could lift up and over the left. Maybe the right hand comes to the hip as you do so. Flex into the right foot. And remember, you're a sphere. You're not in two planes of glass. Maybe you bend into the left knee. Maybe you think of center of left foot through the center of the knee, through the center of both hips, a long line of energy. And then breathe, of course. Maybe the right shoulder could lift over the left as we open the door. And then very slowly close it, look down, step the right foot down, forward fold. Again, if forward folding is not what feels nice to you, you can roll up to stand. Good. And then very slowly make your way back to downward facing dog in a way that feels nice for you. In down dog, shift forward to plank pose. Take a moment to appreciate how different this plank pose feels from the first plank pose we did earlier this morning. Feel all the space, the work, the energy. Slowly land the knees down. Bring yourself all the way down to your belly. As you bring yourself down to your belly, press down to the tops of the feet and just take a really tiny baby back bend. Maybe lift up the hands. Maybe reach the arms back. But it's not like full exertion, right? Imagine you had to speak. Give yourself some room to breathe. And then really slowly soften down. One cheek lands. Shake the hips side to side. And as you lay here, breathe really deeply into the backs of the lungs again. Imagine you could fill up the back of the chest. And then from here, you'll just flip onto your back like a pancake. When you flip onto your back, draw your knees into your chest, give them a squeeze. Maybe rock them side to side. If there's any one last thing you absolutely need to do before your final Shavasana, now would be the time to do so. If you're ready, you're ready. Let yourself go. As you start to wind down, again, think about the breath moving into the back of the lungs, into the floor beneath you. And as the breath moves into the back of the lungs, into the floor beneath you, let yourself soften even more. So the eyes drop back in the skull. The backs of the ears soften. Resisting any gripping, any holding, any tension that you have. Start to bring your awareness back into the room. Locating yourself in your environment again. And then slowly drawing that awareness inward into the body, into sensation, into the breath. As you start to breathe deeper, move in a way that feels natural and organic to you. If you'd like to stay in Shavasana longer, you can just sort of turn the video off or close your laptop or turn off the device and continue what you need to do in your house. This is a really beautiful part of the practice of being with each other in this way, is that you can just turn it off. If you'd like to slowly make your way up into a seat, you can do so now. Keep the face soft. Move intentionally. If you are coming up into a seat, locate the pelvic floor using our diagonal maps. Find the left hip bone to the right sits bone, and the right hip bone to the left sits bone. Where those two diagonal lines meet, that is the center of your pelvis. Imagine you could send the center down towards the floor as the crown of the head lifts up. And take a couple deeper breaths here in your seat. Imagining again that the body is a sphere and you could breathe outward into that sphere. And gently bring the hands to touch. Bow the gaze down over fingertips in deep gratitude to you for the ability, the willingness, and the immense privilege of practice. A deeper bow to each other for sharing this virtual space, whether you're practicing live or you're joining later on. And the thumb knuckles, the third eye center, lift the head up slightly. For me, to you, and all to each other. Namaste. Thanks, everyone. As always, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, you can ask them now when I unmute you, or you can send an email. Have a lovely
Thank you, Emma.